Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining our Lattes and Learning webinar series. Today's presenters and speakers are Roberto Velasquez, who's one of our infrastructure engineers here at Ongoing Operations, and Brandon Friedman, who's one of our senior VCIOs. The topic today is going to be patch management. How important is patching really? And the format, for those of you who haven't attended one of these before, will be a 15-minute presentation with a 15-minute Q&A session at the end. Please feel free to type in your questions as they come to mind into the dashboard window, and I'll serve as the moderator and relay these over to Roberto and Brandon. So go ahead and please grab your coffee and enjoy the webinar. And when you're ready, Roberto, please take it away.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. Thank you for being here on this Wednesday morning.
Okay, hi everybody. This is Brandon Friedman with Ongoing Operations. Sorry about that. We had a little bit of audio issues at the very beginning here. We put this presentation together to really just inform you about kind of why patching's so relevant lately and why it's become so important to our credit union customers, and then answer any questions that you have about that. I appreciate the intro, Amy. Roberto, who Amy mentioned at the beginning, is one of our SMEs here at Ongoing Operations. He spends a great deal of time working with clients to schedule their patches, remediate patches, and go through reporting with them to make sure that everything is up to date and working properly. So Roberto is going to have some great insight here, and we'll be able to answer any questions that you guys have at the end. With that, Roberto, why don't we hop into the first slide here of the presentation? So really, we wanted to do a brief introduction. What is patching? Why is it important? Obviously, many of our clients, most of you who are here know what patching is. It's probably why you joined the meeting. So we'll keep this part brief. But really, patching is about security. Making sure that security exploits are covered and that you're not, your organization does not have to worry about those security exploits due to missing patches. Also, performance enhancements. By patching your devices and endpoints, servers, you're going to get better performance out of your endpoints, which is critical from an efficiency perspective for your staff and for your organization. And then compatibility drivers and software. So tools that you guys use as a credit union change. Your providers are going to put out new versions, and making sure that your operating system is compatible and can operate at the highest efficiency is very important. So that's one of the benefits of making sure that your devices are fully patched. And then all of this kind of rolls into your overall organizational IT health and standardization, and knowing that your devices are all on the same patch levels, that they're all secure, and that you don't have a lot of different levels of when it comes to your endpoints and the many users you have at your organization. And then lastly, and probably most importantly to many of the people who are going to join this call, is it's an NCUA requirement. And we've had multiple credit unions come to us and say, you know, we just met with the NCUA, they came in for their audit, and they dinged us because we haven't patched any of our workstations in 2 or 3 years. This is definitely something that it has been something that they wanted to see for a long time, but has definitely become more relevant as of late, and it's something that they are starting to make sure that credit unions are patching their devices. Obviously, with some of the larger malware and other types of security breaches that have occurred over the last couple of years, it's become more and more relevant. So that's really kind of what we're looking at when it comes to patching. I think this is a good time to talk about kind of some of the big changes that have occurred in the patching world, specifically around Microsoft's patching evolution. Roberto, I think you can speak to some of that.
Yes, I can. And good morning, everyone. Can I be heard?
Yes, we can hear you, Roberto.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about the evolution of patching. But before we get there, let's talk about what it used to be. So Microsoft has made a variety of different changes with Windows 10 and Server 2016 that has changed the scope of patching significantly and made the patching process a little more complex. So let's start with how it used to be. So with Windows XP, Windows 7, Windows 8, 8.1, we had Patch Tuesday. And on Patch Tuesday, Microsoft would release anywhere between 8 and 16 individual patches, and you were responsible for installing them on your machine. If you didn't patch your machine for 6 months and then you went and hit check for updates, you were probably going to be, you know, hit with about 50 or 60 different updates that you have to wait and, you know, to install. So with one of the changes Microsoft has made with Windows 10 and Server 2016 and forward is introduce this concept of cumulative patching. And this is something that has been a little confusing for some of our clients in the past because, you know, everyone's still used to that idea that we should be receiving 8 to 16 patches the way we always do on Patch Tuesday. Well, with what a cumulative patch is, and Microsoft introduced this to speed up, you know, getting devices up to date, is it's essentially a bundle of individual patches. So if you did go through that process in which you were not patching your machines for about 6 months, when you do check for updates, you're not presented with 50 different patches. You're presented with maybe 1, 2, or 3 patches that include those other 47 patches in it. So getting up to date is a lot quicker. One of the next changes that Microsoft has done is introduce the concept of Windows as a service. All right, the reason why is because they don't want to create Windows 11 or Windows 12, Windows 13. They actually want to remain with Windows 10 and adapt the operating system over time, which means they're essentially treating the operating system like a subscription. Okay, so they're going to be releasing patches throughout the month, and this is something that's already happening. They're not just releasing patches on Patch Tuesday; they're releasing patches, you know, the fourth week, the last week of the month. They're releasing patches the third week of the month, which means, and this is actually news to a lot of people, but this is actually has been confirmed, is that eventually they're going to get away from Patch Tuesday. They're going to start treating their operating system like, for example, a typical, you know, iPhone or an Android device, where if a patch needs to be released, they're going to release it. Okay. The next change that they have introduced with Windows 10 and Server 2016 is the concept of feature upgrades or updates. Okay. Feature, and this ties well into Windows as a service. They don't want to create separate operating systems anymore. They want Windows 10 to adapt. So every feature upgrade, which is a larger upgrade that is released twice a year, typically in the spring and in the fall, what these upgrades are essentially new versions of Windows. They introduce different functionality. A lot of times they may change the UI a little bit, make it seem a little different, just trying to keep the operating system fresh over time. And this is something that can affect your patching because Microsoft only supports these feature upgrades for about 18 months. So if you are on a feature upgrade that's older than 18 months, you're actually not going to get as many patches released for your machine than you know, when compared to a machine that is on a supported feature upgrade. So this is something that has to be vetted when and thought about when you're doing patching, and it wasn't something you had to really think about in the past. So the next change that Microsoft made, and it's not truly a huge change, but it's still something that's active, and that's the addition of Windows that you're on. So whether you're on Windows Home, Pro, or Enterprise, we're talking 3 different editions of the operating system that have their own sets of features. Okay, so if you're on a Windows Home, that's the very basic edition of Windows, you might not have all the features that, for example, a Windows machine that has Windows Pro on it might have, which means you don't have as many patches that need to be applied to your particular machine. So that can change your patching, and that's something that has to be thought of as well. So all of these changes in this slide here, they've essentially, are changes Microsoft has introduced that actually make the patching process a little more complex, right? It used to be, on Patch Tuesday, you check for updates and you install your 16 patches. Now you have to, think about cumulative patches and how they're bundling other patches into it. You have to think about, how it's probably unlikely that they're just going to be releasing patches only on Patch Tuesday. You have to take into consideration the feature upgrade that you're on, and also the Windows edition that you're on. So we'll move on to the next slide, and Brandon, I believe you will be taking over and speaking a little bit about managed patching and ongoing operations.
Yeah, thank you, Roberto. Thanks for explaining some of the evolution that's occurring through Microsoft. Here at Ongoing Operations, we've really taken a holistic view at managed patching. And really, it becomes more than just, taking care of your devices and your endpoints and making sure that they stay healthy has become much more than just patching them once a month. It kind of segues in from what Roberto's saying. But beyond the fact that patches are coming out more often than once a month, there's other things that need to be taken into consideration. And so asset tracking is obviously one of those major components. You really need to know what is in your environment. You can't actively keep your devices patched if you don't know what your environment looks like and where the devices are. And then that goes right into monitoring, right? Where are the gaps in your environment? And if you look at the screenshot we have here, we use a tool at Ongoing Operations called CU Control, which is powered by Enable, to really be able to have a single pane of glass view of all devices. And if you see on the right side, you'll see a couple red exclamation points, which show that those 2 devices are not do not have the highest patch status and have some errors that need to be corrected. So monitoring is kind of the next piece of asset tracking, understanding what you have and then understanding where the gaps are and going back and being able to actually close those gaps. And then we've actually layered antivirus on top of that, because at the end of the day, this is about endpoint security. And without having antivirus layered on top, you leave yourself with a hole in your overall security policies for your endpoints. That's not something that necessarily all of our clients use. Some clients are using their own antivirus, but we do provide that to clients who would like to have it all built into one system and have the monitoring in one pane of glass, like we discussed. And then reporting, really, how do we actually prove that we are patching our devices, that our devices are up to date, and be able to provide this data up to executives at our company, the NCUA, when they come and they want to see that our devices are patched, and then board members who are, very aware of the organization and making sure that they're kind of meeting requirements and standards. So reporting is really a big piece, because there's many different ways to report on this type of stuff. It's very, very granular when it comes to reporting, but it's important that the report that you provide is something that any level at the organization can really get the information that they need and know the organization is up to date. So being able to show, really the main thing you want to be able to show with reporting is what patches have been released. Have those patches been deployed to the devices and accepted? Have they failed? Which devices are current and which ones are not current? And then being able to take that report and go back and remediate against the ones that are not completing or installing properly. So those are kind of the main components that we're looking at Ongoing Operations. We've built out a managed patch solution for credit union clients, specifically for financial technology clients who need to meet regulatory standards and make sure that their devices are healthy and they are not open to vulnerabilities and different types of security issues that are coming up more and more often this day and age. So with that being said, that's our overall managed patching presentation. We wanted to keep this fairly high level. We are going to be having another managed patch lattes and learning in February, and we'll get a little bit more granular into some of the different stuff that we're doing. But with that being said, we'd like to open the floor up and see if anybody has any questions or would like to discuss some of the nuances or ways they're handling patching at their organization.
So if anyone has any questions, please go ahead. You can type them right into that question section, and then Roberto and Brandon can answer those. I know you guys might have just been too thorough.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining.
Yeah.
You know, any questions that you do have, you're welcome to reach out to me directly. My email is bfriedman@ongoingoperations.com. That's BFRIEDMAN @ongoingoperations.com. And like I mentioned earlier, if you'd like to join us in February for our next managed patching conversation, we'd be happy to have you. So thank you very much for joining, and we look forward to any future questions that you may have and any way we can help you with your patching needs at your credit union.
Absolutely. Thank you guys very much, and happy holidays, everybody.